Yeah, you couldn't have looked out of the mic. It's good. He's wearing it. He's wearing it.
Today, welcome to the Schofield Memorial Lecture. I'd like to welcome also today's speaker, Ilaria Capua. Before we get started with the talk, I'll just give a brief background to Frank Schofield, and then I'll introduce the speaker. But before I do that, I know some of you, the students that are here, probably don't know who Frank Schofield was. Is there anybody in the room who actually was taught by Frank Schofield? Or worked with Frank Schofield? Anybody? Frank Schofield was a professor here, and this lecture is dedicated to him. He's a colorful and influential pioneer of veterinary medicine in Canada. He actually originated in England and immigrated to Canada as a teenager in 1907 and joined the OVC as a student. Soon after graduation, though, he traveled to Korea as a Canadian missionary to teach bacteriology. He was heavily involved with the defense of the Korean people against Japanese occupation. The peninsula was occupied by Japanese at the time, and he was pressured to leave Korea. He returned back to OVC in 1921 and worked here for 33 years. Upon retirement, he returned to Korea to work with the College of Veterinary Medicine in Seoul, and in recognition of his contribution to Korea's independence, he became the only foreigner who was buried in the National Patriot Cemetery in the country. So he had many significant contributions to veterinary research in the first half of the 20th century. Perhaps the most important was the discovery of an antithrombin substance in clover. So he had very intricate, systematic investigation of hemorrhagic disease in cattle in the early 1920s, which was a big problem. And he made several astute observations that the disease occurred in cattle that were fed sweet clover that had been spoiled by mold. He conducted subsequent clinical trials and found that only the calves that were fed the spoiled clover eventually hemorrhaged, and revealed the problem to be linked to clotting factors or deficiency in them. And the compound dicumarol was eventually identified by the University of Wisconsin. The Wisconsin Alumni Research Fund sponsored the research, hence the subsequent drug that was developed was called warfarin, WARF, the Wisconsin Alumni Research Fund. Schofield's discovery wasn't serendipitous or anecdotal, but based on meticulous scientific inquiry, and his systematic approach of veterinary science and his evidence-based campaign to promote best practice in veterinary medicine to improve health outcomes foreshadowed the acceptance of this approach as current dogma in both human and veterinary medicine. So the Schofield Memorial Lecture celebrates his life, his research, and his role as a motivational icon, who undoubtedly inspired many subsequent research achievements here at OVC. He provides us with the incentive to achieve the highest standards in effort, intellect, and ethics, to practice evidence-based medicine, and to strive towards translation of our scientific discoveries into effective advances in human health. So again, I'd like to welcome Dr. Ilaria Capua. She's the director of the One Health Center of Excellence at the University of Florida. She received her DVM degree from the University of Perugia. Perugia.
Like him.
I'm getting there. In 1991, and PhD degrees from the University of Pisa and Padua. Her research focuses on viral infections of animals that can be transmitted to humans and cause poverty and food security issues, such as that caused by avian influenza and Newcastle disease. At the peak of the H5N1 panzootic, she was a proponent of transdisciplinary sharing of influenza virus genetic sequences to improve pandemic preparedness. This is now an essential aspect of the fight against Ebola, Zika, and other infectious disease threats. Dr. Capua has authored over 200 publications in peer-reviewed journals, has published scientific books on avian influenza and Newcastle disease, and books on careers in science for the general public. She's particularly active in science communication and in promoting female leadership in science. Dr. Capua has received numerous awards, including the Scientific American 50 Award in Leadership in Science Policy, was included among Seed's Revolutionary Minds series for her leadership in promoting sharing of information at the international level, and is a recipient of the most prestigious award in veterinary medicine, the Penn Vet World Leadership in Animal Health Award. Prior to joining the University of Florida, Dr. Capua was elected as a member of the Chamber of Deputies of the Italian Parliament. She served for 2.5 years as Vice President of the Science, Culture, and Education Commission, and during her years in the legislature, she authored parliamentary resolutions and amendments related to infectious diseases, namely antimicrobial resistance, epidemic threats, and emerging pathogens. She'll talk more about that in her presentation. Her vision for One Health is to progress beyond the human-animal environment health triangle and to engage with other disciplines, including economics, law, sustainability, politics, the arts, and others. The stakeholder and decision-making perspective that she gained in Parliament led to the realization that a multidisciplinary approach complements scientific expertise and is essential in addressing global health issues. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Capua.
Thank you, Dr. Kirby. You know why? You are the first Canadian, but virtually the first foreigner who pronounced my name right. So what happened to you? He said it perfect. I think he went on, you know, like you go on the web and you get a word and it says pronounce, and he probably, Ilaria Capua. I was so impressed because I get called all sorts of things. Capua, like poo. Okay, now I can't see, so okay. Am I okay? Can you hear me? Good. Okay, how do I get my slides started? PowerPoint. Okay, good. So thank you for having me here. Thank you for asking me to talk at this memorial lecture. And thank you for asking me to talk about my career. My career has been very diverse, very exciting, and very hard. And I hope that through my experience, other veterinarians or scientists who like to expand beyond their ordinary domain can be inspired and can also find the strength inside them to change. And please remember this slide because I will come back to it, and to fight, because nothing comes easy, especially for women. So this talk is really about opportunities. I have a co-illustrator who is Mauritius Escher. Does anybody know about him? He was a Dutch artist who spent some time in Italy, but who was actually really a magician in creating these nearly absurd drawings, but that really show transition and change. And the reason why I put this picture up there is because it's you have to draw your own life. You are the one who is going to change your life. You are the one who is in charge of your life, and nobody's going to do it for you, and nobody should do it for you. Okay, so that's me. That's me when I was like 2.5. And you know what? I wanted to be a scientist. That's all I wanted in life. I had no doubt. I wanted to be a scientist. And between me and becoming a scientist, okay, there was another little issue, which was I wanted to go away from home because I was fed up with my family. And so I just wanted to go. I didn't want to stay at home anymore. My parents were divorcing. It was really hard and I'd had enough. So what was the only scientific college that I could go to that didn't exist in my hometown, which happened to be Rome, where there's everything? Veterinary science. And that's why I became a veterinarian. Of course, I convinced my parents that I really liked animals, which I do. I mean, they're okay. I like them. No. I like them, and I've always had pets. I like animals. I like them in the wild. I like them in the lab. I really like them. But that wasn't the reason why I went to vet school. I just wanted to be a scientist. And so, you know, when you have an objective in mind and you have to go through, you know, a hardship, you just get on with it and you do it. And this was actually an opportunity because veterinary medicine and training as a veterinarian opens up so many opportunities and so many path careers that I was actually really fortunate to be able to train as a vet and to be able to initiate my multifaceted career. And by the way, if there's an animal, though, let me tell you this, we have a cat. And no, a little cat, and my daughter wanted a cat. Okay, we get a cat. We got the cat. And my husband, who's a veterinarian who practiced for some time in Edinburgh Vet School, I just would like to tell you that they have an inbuilt superiority complex, these people. Edinburgh Vet School is the best vet school in the planet, right? This is according to them. And so I said to my husband and my daughter, okay, what do we have to do with this cat? We have to have it neutered. And so he said, oh, this cat, we have to, yeah, it's a male cat. We need to have it, we'll have it fixed. I look at it, I wasn't wearing my glasses. I said, look, I'm not so sure this is a male cat. But do whatever you want. So my 10-year-old goes to the vet to have the cat just neutered, right, or spayed, whatever it's called. And the vet, and I was like a leading scientist at the time. This only happened 3 years ago. Like one of the leading veterinarians in Italy. And so the veterinarian says, okay, so who's the owner? Ilaria Capua. Okay, and the cat is a male. The vet pulls up the tail and says, no, it's a female. Okay, so I'm the one who said it in the family and nobody believed me. The super Scotsman with a superiority complex. Anyway, that's as far as I go, okay? That's as far as I go, that nobody believes me. So life takes you where it takes you. This is another impressive drawing by Escher. The stairs go everywhere and they go nowhere. They are going up and they are going down. And don't you ever think that you're in charge of what's around you. You just have to understand that life at times will take you where it wants to take you. And this is where it took me. I wanted to be a scientist. I ended up, boom, I got my degree and my training, and I ended up in a virology lab, and I ended up working with viruses, which are like real fun, that transmit from animals to humans, zoonotic diseases, and all of that. So one of the first things that happened to me when I moved to Padova, which was the lab I worked in before I went into politics, was actually I was faced with the most devastating epidemic of avian influenza which had ever occurred in the world, okay? And there I was running a diagnostic laboratory that was in charge of diagnosing influenza, and nobody really knew what to do. There was no experience with influenza. Highly pathogenic influenza, but these are turkeys for the people who don't work with birds, and they are all dead. And this is what highly pathogenic avian influenza does. It kills 100% of the animals it infects within 48 hours. And with immense suffering, actually. And there I was trying to, running a lab with 5 or 6 people, having to manage this mess, because it was really difficult. Virtually by myself. I phoned up all the experts who around the world had published and published and published, like, what do we need to do with him? What do I do with this outbreak? How do we fix it? Well, we don't know. We've never seen anything like that. And so it was really hard, but it was an opportunity. It was an opportunity because we had so many samples and so much work to do and so much thinking that we could do that actually being there in that place with a little group of people, but trying hard and reaching out, turned out to be one of the stepping stones to progress further. And here I am when I was young and beautiful. And this is what the influenza epidemics look. I mean, it just shows Italia, okay? Roma is there, Firenze, Venezia. This is a tribute to Leonardo Susta Perugia is there. And this is where we both graduated. This is this is where Milan is. This is the plains, the northern plains of Italy, because the rest is very bumpy. And this is where a lot of the intensive agriculture is, and where 70% of poultry farming happens. And it was like one big epidemic. We had to kill, because at the time there was culling, and there actually still is, there's a stamping out policy to control influenza, 17 million birds. It destroyed the local economy for the farmers. It was a major game changer in the agricultural environment. And once we had stamped out and once we had cleared the area, the virus was introduced again. And nobody knew what to do. And there wasn't a vaccine. So with my little group of very, very smart students and collaborators, we developed a vaccination system, which is known as DIVA, which basically enables the differentiation of birds that are infected with a field virus from birds that have just been vaccinated. So basically it allows trade, because one of the problems of these episodic diseases is that you cannot trade, because if you have that disease, nobody will buy your eggs, nobody will buy your meat. But with this DIVA system, we were able not only to prevent the introduction or control and eradicate the subsequent epidemics we had, but we were also able to maintain exports. And in Europe, you know, we're trade partners, we're not friends. You understand? So it's not easy to go and convince member states that you have a system that will allow you to trade safe products from an area where there's such a devastating outbreak. And now DIVA is included in the European legislation. So this was really good. I mean, there hadn't been a system to vaccinate and maintain exports, and nobody had really fleshed it out and worked out how to do it, and we did it. We were faced with a big challenge, and we did it. And so when I say that managing that epidemic was really hard, but it was an opportunity, is because if you think and you look forward and you build on what you have, they turn out to be very hard moments, but also they turn out to be opportunities. And this takes me to my second big, what I thought at the time was going to be the second and maybe last biggest challenge that I was faced with, and it's about sharing of information. We're now in 2002, 2003, 2003, 2004, I was pregnant by the way, so like when you're pregnant and you're sort of trying to think about something else, this happens. There was a major epidemic of another influenza virus which scared the hell out of the scientific community because H5N1, also known as the bird flu virus, which you've seen what it can do in birds, was infecting people. And this had virtually never happened before. And so, with a potential epidemic that was going around, that was virtually in 3 continents, and with the fact that the virus was infecting people, there was a very, very big concern. This is where the virus was, and we were actually very active in our lab up here, working with many of the countries from Africa and from other developing countries, and we had a vast collection of strains that everybody was interested in.
We come from different places, from different cultures and backgrounds. Science brings us together. Together, we mix logic with intuition. Together, we push the boundaries of what's possible. Together, we can solve vast problems, and microscopic ones too. Together, we save lives. But divided, we can't. More than ever, science needs us to join together. Together, science can.
Working together is actually another extremely important opportunity. And it was a gigantic opportunity for me when I was asked to put the virus, one virus isolate that the whole world, the whole scientific community on influenza was really interested in a password-protected database. And the WHO had asked me to do this, had said, Ilaria, if you give us the sequence to this African virus you have, we will put it in a password-protected database and to which only 15 labs have access, and we will give you the password. And you know what I said? No thanks. We were in the position to have many isolates coming from many different countries, and we had the opportunity of doing better and of getting the veterinary community to work with the human health community and to look at this massive epidemic as one big problem. And so, of course, I put myself in a gigantic mess, because here I am. So look, this, you know, I had 2 pages in the Wall Street Journal saying, this Italian lady here, look at it, what a rewarding sketch I have, what they made of me. I mean, like, look at Italians, this is what they spend most of their life doing, trying to look nice, and this is what you get on the Wall Street Journal. But anyway, I had 2 pages on the Wall Street Journal, it was on the New York Times, it was everywhere. Like, look at this Italian scientist, what she's done. She's just said that it doesn't make sense to have a password-protected database. We need to think about it. We need to look forward. We need to try and understand how maybe the whole community needs to work together. And actually, I ignited an international debate. I put myself behind my values around public health and around my beliefs that health is one, and it is unreasonable, especially with a zoonotic disease, to keep this information secret. And the paradigm has changed, because years later, I'm not going to go in the detail, but international organizations like FAO, like OIE, they endorsed data sharing at the time, but even the WHO, a few years later said, yeah, but you know what, we recognize that we need greater transparency and that it is important to public health that we actually share information more. And then couple of years later, because WHO doesn't move fast, but it's okay, I mean, it's a very big organization and of course it makes sense. They say we've made a landmark agreement to promote sharing of benefits among the member states that are part of the United Nations organization. So, I mean, nobody had done it before that. People say, oh, but you are like a major game changer. I'm not. I just did what I wanted to do. I had the guts to stand behind my decision, and I had the guts to withstand a lot of negative energy. And now, as Professor Kirby reminded us, it is sharing. Would you think, how could you even imagine of working with Ebola or of working with an emerging pathogen without sharing information? Would that make sense? We have open access everything. We go to the bathroom and it's open access. I mean, everything is open access. And how would it ever make sense that you don't share information in the face of a pandemic? So you get credit, you get success. I was leading a group that actually grew over time. When I left in 2012, the group, I'm wearing the same jacket, look. This means, you see, that means I don't make enough money. But yeah, when I left, my group was, so we started off with like half of these people. When I left, there were 70 people. We had attracted 12 million euros in 5 years, to do work on influenza, Newcastle disease, which are not like up there with the big stuff. We had international reference laboratory status, and we were doing well. And as you do well in life, and this is the upper curve of the roller coaster career, you get rewarded. And so I was awarded the Scientific American 50, and I'm not saying this to show off. I'm just telling you this so that you will understand how bad the crash was when I came on the descending curve of that roller coaster. I actually thought it was spam. I mean, you get an email saying, hey, you are one of the top 50 scientists. Come on, don't be silly. What is this, a joke? Sorry, I was one of Seed's revolutionary minds. I was getting all this positivity, and it was good. It was good. I was even in the Economist, like me, who, by the way, I'm this one, okay? Not anyone else. It wouldn't have matched my jacket. So I was in the Economist, like in 2013, what's the world about? Look at this lady, look at what she's doing, wow. And then it comes that, like years go by, years go by, and you have to think out of the box, and you are ready to take on new challenges. And there was a new challenge out there, and I took it. Why not? And so this guy, okay, so please read the caption. Here it says, Italian Prime Minister Mario Monti on the left, just in case anybody thought that I was the Italian Prime Minister, with virologist Ilaria Capua, newly minted political candidate. So this guy here phoned me up when I was ready for a change. So I was like in the transition phase. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And he said, would you be willing? So this is actually, I thought it was a joke. I mean, I didn't know the guy. Like, why would somebody like that phone me? It's that he has a very distinctive voice. He sounds a bit like a satellite navigator. He's a bit, and so he phoned me up, and it was actually, do we have much time? Yeah, we have time. So I was at a spa with my girlfriends on the 6th of January, which is Befana, which is a bank holiday, and I was doing a massage, and the lady, the beautician, said, your phone is lighting up, because it was silenced. And I said, yeah, just leave it. I mean, who's going to phone me like on a Befana, on a bank holiday? It'll be my, mom or something. And And I finish the massage. I go to the bathroom because I was more interested in the effect of the massage than on the phone call. And I see like 2 or 3 missed calls from a encrypted number, so there wasn't a number there, and then a text saying, "Dear Professor Capua, I am Mario Monti. I would like to speak to you rather urgently if it's no disturb," or something like that. And so what do you think? I thought it was a joke. Like, why is the Prime Minister going to phone me? Like me? And it was time for elections, of course, phone me. And so I said, I'm not going to phone up this number up and tell him a whole string of bad words. So I texted him and I said, I'm busy in it just now. Give me half an hour. So I go to my friends. One was in the sauna. One was in the hot pool. And I said, look at what's on my phone. And there was steam everywhere. So nobody, could read what it says. And so I put myself together and I phoned him up. And he said, so I said, it's you, because the voice was quite clear. And he said, I'm trying to put together a group of people who will run for elections in the next general elections. I'm looking for people who have diverse backgrounds, who are not politicians. You're a leading scientist. You've done lots of good things. And I was, so would you be willing to run for election? And I said, okay, so thank you. How much time do I have? And he said, 24 hours. Okay, so my husband was actually riding his bike. I'd gotten rid of him. He was on his bike. I phoned him up and he had a puncture. I said, look, we need to talk. Look at what's happened. And he had a puncture, so that was maybe a sign from the events which were to come. So anyway, I said yes. I decided to run for elections and I was elected. Because I thought, I'm going to bring our voice in Parliament. I will talk on behalf of scientists and on behalf of One Health, and I will talk on how we really need to do something. We need to do better than what we're doing just now. I was really enthusiastic. I was full of energy, and I was, learning, because it's a completely different community, completely different system. And not even a year after I was elected, this is what happens. I get a phone call from a journalist saying, I have in my hands a criminal investigation which is about the international trafficking of viruses. It appears that you are the criminal mind in this, and that you have been selling viruses to make your own profit. You have been promoting your vaccination strategy through creating an epidemic. You've been spreading viruses deliberately, and basically you risk life imprisonment. No, this is real. This is real. And I was sitting in Parliament at the time. I didn't know anything about this. And I hadn't, what do I have to do with this? And so this is the front cover of that magazine. There was a 5-page article in it. And of course, it just went all over the news. It was on the front pages of lots of local papers, on the national news. Basically, the message that went out is everybody's rotten. Now, think about this, because at times we accuse our politicians, and I'm not defending anyone, I'm just telling you what happened to me. The message is everybody's rotten when they get to politics. So one day, when I was sitting in Parliament, I discovered that when I was campaigning for data sharing And I was so enthusiastic, you saw that video. Doesn't that make sense? I mean, yeah, that's what we're here for. My phone was tapped. And happenings which had occurred all the way back to 1999, which is when that first epidemic had happened, to 2007, were collated and assembled in a creative manner, I would define, in a 17,000-page investigation. And I was at the crux of this. And you know what? When something like this happens, you're by yourself. Nobody stands behind you. When something happens like this, you have to protect your mental health. You have to protect your physical health. You have to protect your family. The 13-year-old who took the cat to the veterinarian was 10 at the time. And as a member of parliament, you know, I was very well known in where I was living. Everybody knew us, also because of my scientific achievements. And people were moving to the other sidewalk. And people were not, like, mothers of kids at school, families, did not want our daughter to go and play with their kids. And you know what? You have to withstand that. And that's really hard. It's really hard. Because your whole social structure is blown and you're by yourself. So the most difficult part to come to terms with was the fact that for such an investigation, and because Italian justice is very slow, the resolution of the judiciary process could have taken 10 years. So we're not talking about, so of course, I was risking life imprisonment. So you get a crazy judge, I could have gone to prison for the rest of my life. Having said that, because I had done nothing, and all of the things that were in that investigation were not evidence-based, and they had made lots of mistakes. You know, I was confident that I wouldn't end up in prison, although, you know, when you're there, it's not so easy. But to get to that point, this could have taken 10 years. And so I turned 50 last year. So this happened happened last year. And I said, what am I going to do? Am I going to stay here as a member of parliament and get crucified for anything I say and be a lame duck? Because that's the problem. If you lose your credibility, you are a nothing in general. As a scientist in general, but you are a nothing, particularly in a political perspective. And so, what am I going to do? And I said, I have to go. I have to start my life again. And that's what I did. So here I am. This is actually my resignation speech. And of course, in the era of social media, you are truly raped on the internet by the opposition and by people who don't disagree with your ideas or who instrumentally just want to get rid of you. And it was hard. And you get emails of people who say, if I was the judiciary, I would inject your viruses to you. We will hurt your daughter. You are a criminal. You are one of those scientists who create viruses so that the pharma can sell their vaccines. You've been working for the government and you have been cheating the government. And what do? I mean, you're by yourself. And you just have to hang on, wait, and put yourself together. And you cry. Let me tell you, this is no joke. You cry because you're afraid. I mean, For somebody who's never been involved in a judicial issue, it's hard to withstand this gigantic system that you know nothing about. I didn't know how the judicial system worked. I didn't know how criminal investigations worked. I didn't know what my rights were. I didn't know anything. And I was in despair. And so you go through that as well. And so when I was showing off about how good I was, you can imagine for somebody who was up there and was up there with the leading scientists of the world and was getting all of these achievements, all of this recognition, 2 years later, this is what happens to you. And, you know, you can get in a spiral of sadness and of depression, and you think, I'm never going to make it. How am I going to make it against 17,000 pages? Who is going to read them? Who is going to understand that there's no scientific merit? Who is going to help me? And you know who's going to help you? No one. Yourself. The lawyers don't get you out of this. You have to get yourself out of this, because the lawyers don't understand the detail, and they're not even interested in the detail. The lawyers can show you the procedure, the lawyers can point you in the right direction, but ultimately it's you who has to put together the defense, and you have to translate your work and your achievements into something that is understandable by the judiciary and by the general public. But then, you know, from the darkness, you come out and you try and fly, and you put yourself together, and you look for new opportunities. And so in 2016, while I was still not I was charged. So you're under investigation, and then you get charged. So somebody formally accuses you. I'm informing you for those people who don't know how these things work. I was charged. I was offered this position at the University of Florida. I resigned as a member of parliament. I started a new life. We started a new life. And 3 weeks after I got to Florida, all accusation, I was cleared of all accusations. And there was evidence of fabrication of charges against me. So basically this had been put together for reasons that are beyond my understanding, but certainly the judge for the preliminary investigation, who is the person who decides whether such an investigation should go to the higher level or not, it was clear that they had mixed up viruses. So they had accused me of being an international virus trafficker, and they even got the viruses wrong. Like, come on. I was accused of having spread an H7N3 Pakistan virus in Europe, which is a virus from Pakistan. It's called H7N3 Pakistan. And this virus has never circulated in Europe. They got mixed up between H5N1, H7N1, H7N3. Listen to this. So I had a cost center, a cost center, you understand? Like each lab, I don't know if you call them cost centers here, they're like chart fields where you put your expenses. I had this cost center which was called 444, and it was a cost center that had money like not from our major funding sources, so not from like our European work or our FAO work. It had little bits and bobs of money coming from maybe little contracts, little things that we were doing. And when money, you know, you're nodding, you understand what I'm talking about. When money ran out, 700 account. Yeah, so when money ran out on one project, they would phone me and say, okay, so-and-so has to go to a meeting in Brussels. Or the microscope is broken, we need to have it fixed, and it's going to take 6 months before we can, because there isn't any money in that budget part of the lab's budget to fix it. And so I used to say, okay, just put it on 700. Just charge it on 444. And I was accused that 444 was an offshore company where I put the money that I was making by selling the viruses. With my husband, by the way. And also, these investigations contained private conversations with my family. Because when the press hits something that they can bite on and that they can tear, they will tear you. My father had just died, and you read on the paper, she was saying to her father about this and this and this, and it had nothing to do with my work or anything. It was just a sentence taken out of context, and which had to do with a beach house or something, and she said to her father, "I will get that fixed." Yeah, okay, we're talking about the toilet in the beach house. This is what we're. But apart from the fact that, okay, now we laugh about it, but it's hard. It's really hard. But, you know what? This is also an opportunity. Because after I was cleared, I came to the States, I started a new life. I was completely rehabilitated, and I was all over the national press like, oh, look at what we've done. One of our best scientists, not only she went to Parliament and tried to do her things, but we accused her of being a criminal, and now she's left the country. And so this has become my mission B, being very vocal about how scientists can be falsely accused because you have people who are listening to phone calls they don't understand, and they can put together anything against you. So this takes me to my take-home messages. First of all, leadership is hard. And it doesn't come easy. It implies going beyond consolidated pathways, or else you're not leading anything. Successful individuals generate envy. Women remember this. And it's not only about women, it's about men as well. But women, for some reason, some women, or I didn't get it. I didn't understand that this was going to come. I didn't understand that I had flown too high. You will be attacked. People will be disrespectful for you for reasons that you don't understand. Sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. But the most important message I have is this, that you have to be resilient, because in life, shit happens. So I had a lot of shit with this last thing. I did. But you know what? Nobody's going to take care of it if I don't, and ultimately I have to put myself together and start a new life and start a new career. Woo. And so what I did was I wrote this book, which will be translated soon, I hope, but there's interest in making a movie and a documentary out of it, out of how a scientist got caught in this horrendous mess. And it's all about me. The title is quite self-explanatory. Virus trafficker? Like, how did this story even come together? And now I'm at UF. So that's what I did before in my previous life. That's what I did before I came to the United States, before I came to UF. Okay, so a few things about One Health. I know that there's a lot of expectations on how I'm going to tell you how to sort this One Health issue, which I'm not. I will just throw around some ideas, and I hope that I will have some good discussions with you later on and this evening. Okay, so this is what One Health has been traditionally. This is the AVMA definition. Human health, environmental health, animal health, and One Health sits in the middle. I think that we're done with that. One Health is this. It's not that. And this is our logo. Because nothing comes easy. If you go on the web and you look for One Health logos, this is what you get. And there's pages and pages and pages. They're actually quite pretty, but they're all about, more or less the same things. One takes a more environmental slant, one takes a more agricultural slant, but they're very much the same. And unfortunately, this whole movement has failed to become one of the leading movements that provide guidance to where are we going as a community. So what's the problem with One Health? And this is actually the Griffon. There, look. You see, the problem with One Health is that it reflects in itself, in its current definition, and it circles in the same environment. And it doesn't seem to be able to go over and beyond that mirror, which keeps it separate from the rest of the world. And so where is the opportunity? We need, at least what I'm trying to do, because you know what, I've done lots of things in life, and I want to do something new, and I want to use my policy-making experience, what I've learned in Parliament, to bring it and move the One Health agenda really forward. And so we have this pool of integrated knowledge, and there's much more than this. But they're all there, and they're all working, each one on a different aspect, on maybe a little part of a disease or a bigger part of a disease. But there's a lot of these little bubbles, like in a glass of bubbly water. There's lots of these things, but they don't have a critical mass. They're not pushing any international agenda forward. And so what my vision is, which is a long way down the road, is to show the international community how the One Health vision is actually part of the Sustainable Development Goals. We as veterinarians have an enormous responsibility and have enormous opportunities in the Sustainable Development Goals. If you look from zero, reducing poverty, reducing hunger, better health, quality education, gender equality. I mean, look at them. We have a say in all of this. But we have to speak loud enough, and we have to get our message across. And what I'm trying to do is get One Health on the radar screen of the decision makers. So what are we doing at UF? We are addressing complex health problems by seeking novel solutions, by using lateral thinking and interdisciplinarity. And we want to capitalize on existing areas of excellence. We are not going to reinvent the wheel by using tools that are offered by the digital revolution, such as artificial intelligence. Why don't we use artificial intelligence for decision making in public health or in One Health? This is our model. I see that people are going, so I don't want to impose on them too much. But basically, we have the idea of using all the different domains, combining them in platforms that can manage very diverse data, and a step at a time, make them hear our voice. And this brings me to the first slide. And it brings me to this, which is a very important take-home message, that at times you think that you're lost, you don't know where to do, you don't know where to go, you don't know what's going to happen of you, but transformation always happens, and we have to put up with it. And what the caterpillar calls the end of the world, the rest of the world calls a butterfly. And this is extremely important for when you're enduring hardships. And I'm finishing with this, which is Escher's Metamorphose, which is all about change. And it's about, you see how lizards turn into hexagons, and the hexagons turn into bees, and the bees fly, and they fly beyond, and they become birds. And the birds in their interspace have fish. Because this is what change is about. It's about seeing what's in the black parts that you don't see. And the birds you see move on, and you get other birds, different clouds of birds. And then they lead us towards something that maybe we don't really think about, but on how, as veterinarians, we can actually do something for our citizens, and how we need to be in that chess game. And we need to play the game. We have strong pieces, and we just need to use them so that we can advocate a bigger role in looking at tomorrow. Thank you very much. We're talking to them. See what you learn in Parliament?
Very useful. So on behalf of the Central Veterinary Student Association and the Ontario Veterinary College, I'd like to thank you for giving us this wonderful lecture and teaching us about how challenges are in reality opportunities and how we can all overcome them together. So I'd like to present you with Schofield.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me, thank you. There, okay. Thank you very much. Oops, there you go. Okay, picture. Thank you.